Africa is a hub for natural resources. It has always been for the West. And now Africa has multiple options. Africa doesn't have to succumb to a bad deal that we get from the Western countries. Africa has choice now. Africa now wants to be treated as equals at the table. And now Russia and China offer that to Africa.
So there was this next video that I want us to watch. It talks about Chinese investment in Africa. And I know sometimes people have misunderstood my whole point about Chinese investment in Africa. So let me just clear the air before we continue. I am not against Chinese investment in Africa. I'm not against China investing in Africa. I'm not against China trying to build things that are important for Africans. I'm not against that. My point is, African leaders must be smart enough to make decisions that are at the best interest of Africa and Africans. So if a leader in Africa is making a deal with China for, let's say, an infrastructure, that Africa must understand the viability of that project. That African leader must have done his or her homework to understand how important that project would be to Africa. That's just all what I'm talking about. Because more too often, you will come across something in Africa and you ask yourself if the people in charge really understand what they are doing. Sometimes the leaders in Africa will not be concerned about the country as a whole, but will be so much concerned about what they stand to gain if that project, if that contract went through. All what they will care about is their back pocket, is what they stand to benefit, not what the country stand to gain. That has been my problem in Africa. And I think I have lived in Africa enough to understand how things play out there. Now, some countries in Africa are way more better than the others. That's for sure. But if you take Africa as a whole, you will see that a lot of things are lacking. Our African leaders lack initiative. Our African leaders lack the patrioticness that is needed to build Africa. Some of them are just there because politics has become a legal way to steal money from the government. Politics has become a legal way to run the government dry without any consequences. When they are there, instead of trying to work for the people, they are there stealing money from the government. They are there emptying the state coffers, and they are there changing laws to make sure that they do not go to prison when they leave office. And if they realize that it might be difficult for them to change the laws that would allow them to work freely when they are out of office, they will not leave office. They will stay there. In West Africa and Central Africa is the order of the day. Leaders come in and stay there for years upon years upon years upon years. They don't leave. They embezzle and embezzle and embezzle and embezzle. They don't leave because they are scared that if they leave office, they might be arrested. They have stolen so much from the states that they would rather die in office than leave. But let's watch this video.
Africa doesn't know what they're doing. They're saying like, oh, you know, these Africans, they don't understand financial products, really.
Right. You got to be scared of the Chinese because they're going to take over everything. They will own you. They will destroy your country. Meanwhile, isn't that exactly what the West is doing?
Right. Well, and also the West benefits from Chinese investments. but we're telling Africans they don't understand what they're doing. I don't understand. I don't think there's anything more racist than that. Like, sorry, you guys don't understand finance. You don't understand that when you're accepting this debt from China, you're really doing your country wrong. But China has been investing in Africa infrastructure for decades. For example, in the Congo, major roads were shelled and destroyed in 1997 by the Rwanda-Uganda-backed army. China repaired those roads in 2010. Now, why would they do that? Here is how Siddharth Kara explained it in his book called Cobalt Red about cobalt mines in Congo. He says that China's dominance in Africa was established in 2000 when President Jiang Zemin proposed the creation of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation to facilitate Chinese investments in African countries. This relationship was billed as a win-win. The Chinese would build much-needed roads, dams, airports, bridges, mobile networks, and power plants across Africa. And in exchange, China would secure access to vital resources to support its growing economy. And that has continued. These roads were built. We're going to hear from a politician who is going to tell us more about that just in a second. Now, Kara, the author of this book, he thinks that Chinese cooperation may not be the best thing for Africa, but not all African leaders feel that way. Just this week, Zambian politician spoke in Moscow this week about how the West has been exploiting Africa for centuries, and Africa is now demanding autonomy, and they feel like Russia and China are totally acceptable partners as a means to this end.
We cannot keep on taking moral lessons from the West, right? We cannot let ourselves be taught about morality, about financial product, about how to deal with others from the West, because we all know by now how biased the West is. We cannot keep on getting these lectures from them, because if there is one set of people, I have said this like hundreds of times on this platform, if there is one set of people who said something different and did the opposite of what they said, is the West. They will tell you something that you should do. They will be like, we love you, okay? We are here for you. We will stick out our necks to protect you. We will make sure that you are comfortable. We will make sure that you have peace and security in your country. We will guarantee all that. We will make sure that human right is practiced to the fullest, that you guys have free and fair elections, that you guys have democracy in your country. After saying all this, they will turn around and then they will support a dictator in your own country. They will turn around and they will support a tyrant in your own country. An authoritarian will be in your country for years, and they will accept nothing. And you will be like, didn't they promise to support us, to make sure that we have free and fair elections, to make sure that we have democracy? Didn't they? But I am not seeing us having any democracy. If anything, we are having an authoritarian leader in office for years, and they support that leader. The same thing they would say, that everyone has to respect the sovereignty of other nations, that people cannot wage war on other nations, that people cannot invade other nations without just cause. And then they will turn around and invade other countries, forgetting the fact that they have said people cannot do that. There are one set of laws for everybody, and there are one set of laws for themselves. They don't respect the laws they made. So I don't think that Africa or Africans should be getting lessons on morality from them. No. I have always been with the impression that Africa must learn to create its own way. Africa must learn to build its own future. Africa must learn to treat its own people fairly. Africa must learn to create a path for its own people. China investing in Africa is not a bad thing, has never been a bad thing. But we forgetting to do our homework. We forgetting to pinpoint the sectors that we believe will support our economy. And just letting China build whatever they want to build, wherever they want to build it, is a problem. It's really a problem. Take, for example, the standard gauge railway in Kenya that was built by the Chinese. It's a very fantastic project. It's a very good project. Everyone thought that that particular project was going to change the lives of the people in Kenya. It was a much needed project, but that project is struggling. The project till now is unable to pay for itself. The problem is not with the Chinese building that project in Kenya. The problem is with the Kenyans not fully understanding how the whole thing will work out. That's the problem. Now, the railway is losing money. What the railway makes is not even enough to sustain its activities. That is the kind of project I'm talking about. Because I have told you guys on this show that if there's one particular country that is good at building things that go nowhere, it's China. If there's one country that is good at throwing money at things that no one uses, it's China. So if we let them build whatever they want, wherever they want to build it, they will build many ghost cities in Africa, many large roads that goes nowhere. So we must be very strategic, because we do not want to end up in a situation whereby we will owe China millions upon millions or billions upon billions of dollars for projects that we don't use, for projects that are not generating any income. We must be smarter. We must do things like people who have brains. But you guys out there, what is your take on the West hypocrisy? Have they ever done what they said they would do? And secondly, what do you think about Chinese investment in Africa? Are those investments strategic enough that are catering for the daily needs of the people? In other words, are Chinese building the much needed things we need in Africa, that Africa needs, or that Africans need to be prosperous in the future? Share your thoughts and opinions with us in the comment section below, because like always, we love hearing what you have to say. And also, please don't forget to like this video, share this video, follow our Facebook page, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel, because little bit of good we, like the way you're doing just now, help us a lot, and we shall forever be grateful to you. So thank you very much for doing just that. And like always, see you in the next one.